Alumni Podcast with Tek Prem.
Hurts, this time, looks, fakes, keeps it at the 40, at the 35-30, 25-20. Jalen Hurts, touchdown! 45 yards. Hurts in the gun. Hurts gives off to Barkley. He's got a first down and more. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Saquon Barkley!
He did it
62 yards.
He did it again, Maurice.
Hurts in the gun on first down. He goes to Barkley. He breaks a tackle. He's on his way. Here he goes. He's at the 40, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown! Saquon Barkley, 78 yards. That'll lock it up.
Boy, he is a special football player.
Back again. They got him. They sacked him. It's Carter, Jalen Carter.
Can't block him.
Stafford back. He's looking. He puts it in the air, and it's incomplete. It's incomplete. The Eagles take over on downs, and now they are heading to the NFC Championship Game. Pressure by Carter.
The Eagles will be hosting the NFC Championship Game right here, Lincoln Financial Field. Make sure you be here.
Fly, Eagles, fly, on the road to victory. Fly, Eagles, fly, score a touchdown, 1, 2, 3. Hit 'em low, hit 'em high, and watch our Eagles fly. Fly, Eagles, fly, on the road to victory. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
It's the Vet Alumni Podcast. I'm Tek. He's Prem. Sunday, 3 p.m. Lincoln Financial Field is the place. The NFC Championship Game will be played. It's a revenge game. Eagles, Commanders.
Eagles Commanders 3, and you'd be happy to know, Tek, that the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0 in their last 3 home NFC Championship games.
Okay.
The Falcons, the Vikings, the Niners all caught L's in this round on that exact same field. I think Vegas has it nailed. I think I'm seeing 6. I'm seeing 6.5. I think 6 is the more likely number. Going right out the chute, I'm giving you 30 to 24 birds. To the Super Bowl we go. Book your flight to New Orleans.
Well, there it is. I don't know what the score is going to be, but I'd say inside 6 is
I think it's a realistic. I think they nailed it. I was listening to Mikey Miss all week. He thinks they nailed it. And, you know, the people that are worried or scared, it's not the time to be that. They have showed you all season what they are. It's not the time to be worried or scared or to critique the quarterback. It's the time to say, listen, we are the team to beat in this conference all season. Some would say the Lions, but we're the most complete football team all season, even when you put us up against AFC teams. That's why we're plus 175 to win it all, the favorites in Las Vegas.
We are.
I'm excited, Tek.
Listen, I'm very excited. It's another week where it's like I hate to look ahead. You know what I mean?
But you can't look ahead. You can't look ahead.
You can't, but I see Washington coming in as the hottest team, and I look at the Eagles as, you know, the best team.
They've been playing Swiss cheese defenses. The Washington Commanders.
That's true. And you know, here's my feeling. All right. Washington has had a magical season. Okay, the quarterback, Jayden Daniels.
It's a good story.
Season.
It's a good story.
It's a great story. Okay, but here's my problem. Right, is that they have skipped steps in the process. This was supposed to be a rebuilding team, and all of a sudden they're in the NFC Championship. Right. And look, they got lucky along the way. They caught some breaks, and that's great.
They did.
I think it's a great story for them. But when you skip steps in the process in this where they're at, they're not ready yet. They're not there yet. They have holes.
They're like the Eagles in 2000 when they played the Rams in the NFC title game.
Right.
Very good comparison because McNabb was a phenomenal rookie quarterback. Because that was his second year, though.
Yeah.
But same kind of comparison. They lost by 5 points.
I look at this Washington team, and I'm like, you can't skip steps in the process because the football gods kind of level it out. I mean, so I think
Jalen Carter's the ultimate equalizer, talking about leveling out. I say it all the time on our X account. Our defense is the great equalizer. And in the playoffs,
it is.
That's what really matters. I think this game is going to look like a lot of Eagles games have looked this year, Tech.
I hated that Rams game. I
did too. The conditions were tough. That was a rough game for all those guys.
But it's football. And
it is.
Kids
it is
playing in those elements since they're 5 years old.
Well, some of them. Some of these guys are from Jacksonville, Texas, Florida.
I hear you.
Cali. Ain't got no snow out there.
It's football, though.
I know.
Can't stand excuses. The A.J. Brown drop at the goal line. The offense only getting a field goal after the fumble recovery from Isaiah Rodgers brings him down to the 8-yard line.
I'm glad you brought up the A.J. drop because if A.J. catches that ball.
That's his first drop of the year, by the way.
And there was one in the beginning of that game, too, on a third down.
Yes.
He alligator armed it. He top Pink's.
Well, let me tell you, though. You know why I excuse him on that one, even though that would have extended the drive?
It's big.
Because Jalen kind of hung him out to dry there. He was in double coverage.
Yeah.
He was about to take a massive hit.
Yeah, but when you're worried about inner excellence, right?
Yeah, I get it.
Inner excellence means you are going to transcend the outer demons.
He made a business decision there. Okay,
I think so.
He made a business decision.
I don't want to see no business decisions this week.
No,
only one I want to see is I'm going to New Orleans.
I know, but he chose to Aguilar that one, and I understood it when he did it. You know what I mean?
You reminded me of that clip on the news.
He did it, and I wasn't mad at him because I'm like, he was about to get peanut butter and jellied on that John. So
and speaking of that.
As soon as I saw it, I'm like, I excuse him from that.
That one, and then they wanted the goal line, and then the one where Devontae had it on a 40-yarder and gets the illegal hit. If Jalen has those completions, first off, for people complaining about his stat line and this and that, it doesn't matter what his passing numbers look like. If they need to throw,
they would have been a lot better.
They would have looked really good. If they need to throw, they do. But there's going to be 31-mile-an-hour winds this week, Tech. And that only hurts the Commanders because if the Commanders have any chance at an upset, they're going to have to complete big plays in the passing game.
But I think they will. I
don't know, man. I don't think they will complete as many big ones this time around as they did in Washington when we lost, 2 defensive starters and our captain.
Yeah, well,
I don't think it's going to look like that game at all. I think it's going to look more like the first game with the Link, where
I hope so.
They're going to do the mush rush. They're going to do the mush rush up front to keep Jayden from getting loose.
It bothered me because I just when you looked at those plays, and then the 2 missed extra points. It's like Hurts gets injured. The passing game was below average for the second week again. And a lot of that had something to do, the A.J. Brown.
Well, the weather is a part of it. I mean,
yeah.
The only reason that Stafford looked so good in the last 4 minutes is because they were in prevent on that first touchdown drive.
They had no business being.
That's what they were doing.
Yeah,
that's what Vic was doing.
They went to it. There was 6 minutes on the clock.
They should have stayed aggressive. You're in the snow.
Yeah,
but that's why people were like, "How's this possible?" That's what they were doing, and I'm sitting there on my sofa. I got lightheaded, bro.
They went prevent.
When
6:20 something left. It's like why?
Less than that. 4 minutes left. But before Jalen Carter got loose in those last 2 plays, it felt like the Falcons game all over.
It did.
At that point.
Yes.
Because before, look, I'm going to tell you, after Saquon breaks that last run, we're up 28-15. I'm taking a leak. I'm looking at my Eagles thing on the wall in my bathroom as I take my pee, and I'm like, we're good.
See,
it's 28-15.
When they were driving, my dad called it, when it was 19-15. And my dad says, well, they don't get a crucial turnover here. This game's over.
Yeah, the false start at the 1. You
don't know how much that burned me up. Because
they could not punch it in.
Because you just turned 7 into 3. And that just burns me alive. I hated that. And
they could have made it a 9-point game because if they would have got the touchdown and go for 2.
If you were willing to go for it on third down, why weren't you willing to go for the tush push on the second down? That's what I didn't understand.
It doesn't make sense.
It didn't make sense
at all. Well, they gave it to Saquon. You're going to give it to your guy.
I would have just tush pushed it in. I
don't understand. Why don't they do what the Ravens did and give it to like a bigger guy to take the snap? I mean, give it to like Goddard or Calcaterra could learn how to take a snap and move forward. I like that they do that with Mark Andrews, the Ravens.
Me too.
It's smart.
When they called that false start, I looked back at it. Initially, my feeling was that looks like a suspicious call, and my mind starts racing. Oh, here we go. here's the narrative. The NFL, of course, they have the State Farm NFL agenda with Kansas City, but now I see what they want to do. They want the LA Fires storyline.
I know.
They're
I
trying
thought
to
about
push
that
the Rams
too.
through. But then when I look back on it on
No,
Twitter,
that was a false start.
and I'm like, fuck, he flinched.
He did.
I'm like, God damn it,
And it's
he
your best.
flinched.
It's your best lineman for years.
I was pissed because
That they would have made it a 9-point game because they could have
Yes.
gone for 2 there, which
and then those missed extra points wouldn't have made a difference.
Wouldn't have made a difference.
But it made a difference because you're coming down the game here is on the line.
it should have been an 8-point game.
It's
You know, in Elliott's defense, though, he hit 3 key field goals.
he did, but you can't miss those. You can't miss those automatics.
You see what Ruben Frank put out?
No.
In postseason history, Jake Elliott is the worst extra point kicker in postseason
don't-
history.
I
But
don't get
he's the best field goal kicker.
Yes, I know he hasn't missed one in the postseason.
No field goals missed in the postseason,
No.
but more extra points missed than anybody.
I can't believe it. I
wish the extra point was
it.
still the chip shot it used to be. It really should be. 7 was a guaranteed. They're kicking it from the 2-yard
But
line.
it should be from him in those elements. He hit a 44-yarder in the elements, which by the way,
It snuck in.
It's like a 50-yarder on a clear
Yeah,
day.
yes,
and
yes.
he's missing these chip shot extra points, and they mattered.
I know.
Look, the one mattered.
Yeah.
But you missed 2.
Then
2
you're,
puts it out.
Then you're in
out of
line.
range.
I think the Rams, if they would have got that last TD, I think they would have been going for 2 if they were down 1. I think they would have been going for the win there, knowing McVay. But now Sirianni, 3-0 against Sean McVay, the NFL's golden boy. Sirianni is building.
Well, he's overrated to me. I
He is.
thought McVay was always overrated.
Sirianni's building a resume that, is up there with the top 5-6 coaches of all time right now. If he hoists the Lombardi this year, Nick Sirianni will immediately become the greatest coach in Eagles history. If he wins it this year, Tech, that's 2 conference titles and a Super Bowl ring and 3 14-win seasons in 4 seasons. If he wins it, if he wins it this year, nobody has ever done that here.
No.
I mean, even Andy can't. Andy didn't win it here, so
Right.
he got to the precipice, but they lost 4 title games.
And then we have to talk about Saquon Barkley. I mean,
3 title
the
games.
2 runs, just unbelievable. I mean, the guy, you're not going to stop him. And here's the problem with Washington. It's the same problem as the Rams. And quite frankly, same problem as the Packers. All 3 of those teams are good enough to stop one aspect, but not good enough to stop both. If you're thinking, let Jalen beat us, cool. But then you got to stop Saquon. But you're not good enough to stop Saquon and make Jalen and let Jalen beat you and have Jalen not beat you.
Well, there's not a defense in football that, besides maybe if the Eagles were playing their own defense.
Right,
And
that has stopped Saquon.
Here's what
No
people,
one has stopped Saquon.
Here's what people fail to realize sometimes, too. This Eagles first-team offense has been practicing against this number 1 defense. That's
true.
when iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, but the offense does not look great. I mean, pretty much all playoffs. I mean, they haven't had a great performance in the playoffs, with the exception of Saquon.
Well,
and
they played the Packers, the 5th-ranked defense in football, very good defense, and B, the hottest defense coming in here.
True.
So and the elements. It always help the defense when there's elements, but in my opinion,
And the elements actually was we thought, and I was wrong. I mean, it hit me in the first quarter that we thought going into the game it was advantage us if it's the weather. It was advantage them because
there wasn't no weather in the first
they
quarter.
needed the weather to neutralize what we do well outside of Saquon. You're not stopping Saquon. I don't care what it is. Blizzard,
Right.
hurricane.
No.
You're not stopping
No.
Saquon. But to kind of neutralize what we do effectively, they needed the elements. They're a finesse team. So Matthew Stafford's going to throw for 1 billion yards, even in a blizzard. I mean, he is that kind of quarterback. He is a passing quarterback. That's what he does.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the elements are for him and what their game is. Now, the problem on their side is this Kyron Williams, he is kind of an electric back. He is a really good runner, but the problem is he's got fumble issues. He has fumble.
And I said that this week. He's going to have a key fumble. And let me just take a second to address this clown, Chris Sims. If you take 5 of those plays away,
You can't take
the
the
Rams
plays
won
away.
most. And here's what this clown forgets, and I don't know how, when his father is a Super Bowl winner. Every single NFL game is decided by a handful of plays. So if you have 3 40-plus yard touchdown runs and 2 fourth-quarter fumble recoveries and you're in your own house, guess what, Chris? In the history of football, 100-plus years, That team that does that is winning 90% of those games. So stop with the revisionist history. They did what winning teams do in the playoffs when it matters most. You turn the ball over and you pop home runs. That's how you win.
It's like saying if you take the Model T away from Henry Ford, then we're still in horse and buggies.
Yeah, you have a 4-3 baseball game. Oh well, if you take that grand slam away, the other team won. Well, yeah, of course. You take the tires away, guess what? The car ain't moving.
Yeah, and it was so illogical.
I can't stand that clown. You know what it is? He had Jalen Hurts off of his top 50 quarterback list 2 years ago, and he's trying his best to save that any way he can. The truth is, Jalen's one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football. He doesn't have to air it out because that's not how we're built. We are built to play hard-nosed defense, run the ball down your throat, and win time of possession. We don't have to be Peyton Manning's Colts. We don't have to be Drew Brees' Saints. We are old school football, and we've always been the team with the unorthodox quarterback and the tough defense when we have good teams. When we have good teams, that's what we are.
Right. The defense needs to show up in this game.
Oh, big time.
The offensive game plan needs to be a whole lot better. Jalen needs to be sharp. And I'm already a little worried. I mean, Dallas Goedert hasn't practiced in 2 days, but he will.
I think it's more a rest for him.
Yeah, probably. From what they're saying, nobody's really concerned. They expect him to play. But Cam Jurgens is out with a back injury. He has not practiced. He wasn't even at the practices. So that is a little concerning. I hope he's ready to go.
I think he will be.
That could be a vicious blow to the O-line.
I think he will be.
I know Washington's defensive line isn't great, but it's pretty good.
I see people tweeting today, anyone who thinks that Jurgens won't be out there is crazy. Yeah, and I think
I tend to think that, but
just shoot the guy in the back with a cortisone shot. Get him on the field.
And we'll see.
I think he's out there. Look, and even if he's not, I have full faith in Jeff Stoutland. I know it's a big difference when you have a different center.
Right.
But on the flip side, I know you talked about the defense having to step up. Their best lineman is out. Their right guard, who has been a standout right guard, is out. Jalen Carter is going to be the difference in this game. I think the Eagles win this game because of our D-line again. And that's why I think they win by 6, just like Vegas says. Jayden Daniels has been phenomenal, of course. He's been one of the best rookie performances, some people would say, of all time, outside of 84 Marino or whatever.
And right now, I'm not saying all time of these remaining quarterbacks, but he's the best one right now of all these remaining quarterbacks that are left. I give that to them. That is the only position I give to Washington. I look at position by position, and I'm like, okay, they got the better quarterback, but there isn't another position on their roster that I would take over any one of our players.
No, and I do like some of their young corners.
Yeah.
They had that Sanskrit, whatever his name is.
I wanted Frankie Louvu in the offseason. I wanted us to sign him. We didn't. They signed him. And it turns out he's a dirty player. I just wish we had him.
Did you see what their defensive coordinator said yesterday?
Yeah,
did you hear that?
I saw it.
He's getting his quarterback hurt. They're going to Brock Purdy this kid. And then it's going to be flipped. The script is going to be flipped, right? They beat us in Washington by knocking out Hurts. I would not be surprised if they lay a really mean hit and get flagged on Daniels, and I'd be fine with that because you don't say stuff like that. No. You don't disrespect a quarterback like that was an MVP candidate 2 years ago and already a conference champion. You don't do that.
I think it's a nothing burger because I saw it and I'm like, Jalen knows they're going to be gunning for him. They know he's not 100% and that he's going to go out there.
Yeah, I know.
He knows they're coming for him. I mean, not just Washington. It could be anybody. Whoever they played in this game would be gunning for him.
In the spirit of Patrick Robinson, right? I think you're going to see a first half pick 6 by the Birds.
That would be phenomenal.
I think you're going to see
Didn't
one.
we see that at the Packers game?
Was it a pick 6?
CJ took it to the house.
It was.
Right away. I'd like to see another
There's
one of
something
those.
about a pick 6. It's one of the most exciting plays in a football game possible.
It is.
Isaiah Rodgers almost had the fumble pickup for 6.
Yeah, he almost took it in.
And you know what?
I should have scored on that regardless.
I would have hit on a $500 bet, $10 bet I made, right? I had a Philadelphia defensive TD. I had Saquon over 80 yards, and I had Birds money line. And I lost it because he got tackled at the 8 or whatever it was.
Losing Quignon in that game was almost catastrophic.
Almost.
But you know what?
Rodgers played hard, man.
Yeah.
He played hard. He got beat a few times.
He got exposed a little bit. But, he's always there. Whenever the
There was
ball
one
is
that was a
he's there.
phenomenal catch, though.
Yeah.
His hand was right there. I mean, he should have picked the one, too.
I know. He went for a basket. What are you doing? Just
Yeah,
snag
get
that
your
ball.
hands on the ball.
I know.
Well, he's a backup for a reason, but he's one of
It's
the
true.
better backups in football at that position.
true.
He's probably one of the better ones.
We're going to hit the vet line with Eytan Shander.
Yes,
our
sir.
guy, to talk about the NFC Championship. But first, brought to you by the Fairless Hills Academy of Music, it is not time for a vet fact because there is no vet fact.
In the history of the Philadelphia Eagles and obviously the Philadelphia Phillies, there has never been a game played on January 24th.
Yes. So let me just take this opportunity before we get to Eytan to go on a tirade, okay?
Uh-oh.
It's time to get real about the Sixers and owner Josh Harris, especially the timing of the NFC Championship being this weekend. This is the time to do it. I want to talk to Sixers fans directly here, okay? I know this is radical thinking, and I know it isn't in our DNA, but it is time to root against the Sixers. It's time to root for them to lose and fail. Stop going to the games, buying the merch, no t-shirts, no jerseys, no hoodies, no nothing. There needs to be a full-on boycott
Absolutely.
of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Horrible organization.
I live and die for all our teams here. We do a podcast
We're
dedicated
4 for 4.
to Philly sports.
Yeah.
So it's in our blood. It's in my DNA. I don't know how to root against my teams, but desperate times call for desperate measures. It's time to get serious here. We need to boycott until Josh Harris sells this team. The entire front office is an
Absolutely.
embarrassment, but the owner has to go. He's not a Philadelphia guy. He owns 2 rival teams in different sports. He's a delusional clown. We don't
He
need
is.
him here. He's an absentee owner at that. The team is a national disgrace. It's time to let it go, and it'll be okay to not have an NBA team here for a while. Or you know what? Switch allegiance. I lived in California. I fell in love with Golden State Warriors.
Well,
I'm
that's
still
a Philly.
fan.
That's a Philadelphia franchise.
Right. Technically, yes.
That's always been my second squad, just like the A's.
But it doesn't matter if you want to like the Bulls or you want to like the Knicks or I don't care who
Just
you want to like. You want to
move
like
off
the
of the
Nuggets.
Sixers.
Move off the Sixers, at least temporarily. The NBA, it's broken. The
It is.
Sixers, on top of it, do not deserve your support. Stop giving them your time, your energy, and most importantly here, your money. Not until Josh Harris sells this team.
Picture this Sunday. Josh Harris is there, he's in his suite, then he comes down to the sideline. There's going to be Sixers players, hypothetically, past and present. I don't know if they have a game or what.
They may, yeah.
If they're there watching the Birds, right?
They might
He's
just
going to
be there.
have players from his basketball team rooting against his football team.
Right.
That should never happen.
No.
It should never happen.
This guy, he's all about the money. He doesn't care about this basketball team here. He should sell the team, and we should stop supporting this team and him. Stop lining his pockets. Stop giving them your money.
Cut it off.
Period. All right, that being said, let's hit the vet line with our guy, Eytan Shander, to talk about the Birds-Commanders matchup with a Super Bowl appearance on the line.
Oh.
Next.
Vet Alumni. And now, it's the Vet Line.
Why don't you answer your phone?
Joined now on the vet line by Eytan Shander of
sir.
OddsShopper.com and, of course, Fox 29, our family over there. Eytan, thanks for hopping on the vet line with us.
My fellow Fox 29 brethren, what's happening, guys?
Yes, sir. We are excited for another
Oh,
NFC Championship game in Philadelphia. 3-0 in their last 3 trips to this game in Philadelphia. What's your take on the game, the 6-point line for the Birds, and who is the big impact player you see this Sunday?
Well, I think as I've been cautious kind of in the final third, if you will, of the season, just knowing how difficult it is for any team to kind of keep it up, but also realizing that the Eagles have an advantage that no other team does in the NFL, and that truly is the combination of Saquon Barkley and this offensive line. Nobody else can do what they can do on the ground. Doesn't mean that a guy can't break one, Derrick Henry. Doesn't mean that other teams can't put up big numbers, but nobody can change a game and really dominate a game. And as you all know, when you're up and you can run the football, it's very rare that you blow that lead.
Right.
So this just compounds, right? And bang, bang. Looked at it last week. And granted that it was close and people were gasping and looking around like, oh, is this really going to happen? Is the old Philly just fate going to happen, right, with the Rams? But it didn't. It didn't. And I think what happened instead is this team found a way to survive.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is I felt like they've had chances, they've survived. I felt like things got tight with the Rams just because the nature of the quarterback and the fact that the Rams could get down the field fast. That happens in the playoffs. With all of that said, I have never been more confident since the start of the season that the Philadelphia Eagles will not only win but cover a spread against a rookie quarterback on the road, now playing his 5th game. It just straight, mind you, if you count the regular season on the road.
Right.
That stuff doesn't happen. And look, you say Joe Flacco, all this other stuff, fine. But the odds would tell you that this is it for Jayden Daniels in Washington.
You're absolutely correct. I completely echo that sentiment.
Yep.
I think that it would take some miraculous, weird things, kind of like we saw happen in their last trip to Washington to play the Commanders there, a very fluky type of game. I don't see that happening. I see this being more like most Eagles games have looked this year, including the one against the Commanders at the Link. What do you make of the matchup now with Jalen Carter going against a backup right guard?
Yeah, I think this is where Washington is going to have to be creative. And at the same point, it's not like they've got a statue back there either.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to caution people and think that this is a win, but it's not an automatic win. And look, Jalen Carter doesn't have to get to the quarterback to cause massive disruption. We all know that. I think the issue at hand is, okay, everybody knows there's a mismatch, right? Like, that's part of the NFL, is a lot of this stuff we all see coming, right? In some cases, we've got 7 days to go over all the different matchups and angles. And if the 3 of us can comb over everything, chances are coaches are too. So it stands to reason, right, that Washington knows exactly, holy, you know what, we got a weakness here with a backup guard against one of the best interior linemen right now that across the NFL.
Yeah.
With that said, all right, let's look at it though. This is where Washington, and I don't mean it like as a prop, I mean it as like, okay, let me see what you got. This is where they're going to have to be creative. I don't know if it's faster throws. I don't know if it's just instructing the quarterback to get the hell out of there once things break down, not try to just stay and hold and throw passes and make mistakes in that regard. So maybe we see more of a Jalen Hurts approach. Maybe we see a better coach. And I don't mean that he's not right now. Clearly he wouldn't be if he's not here. Jayden Daniels in the sense of, hey, you see this big monster coming right now. You're going to have to take that sack. Take that 3-yard sack or try to get the hell out of there, but don't throw the football. And that's maybe an already advantage that the Eagles have built in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, on the flip side, Cam Jurgens not practicing this week yet. How concerned are you about him suiting up or not suiting up? What do you think is going to happen? Because I think he's going to play.
Yeah, I think Friday is always a good indicator from a practice report, right?
Yeah.
If a guy sits out on Friday, then there really is a game time decision here. There's no gamesmanship from Nick Sirianni holding out Cam Jurgens when it comes to practice this week. We can be honest about that. I think you're right where he's trending towards playing. And I think when you get this deep into the season, missing a week of practice is not as dire and is not as telling maybe of a situation as it is in week 6 or week 10 in the regular season. So guys need rest. And if a guy's banged up and if a guy is kind of like, okay, maybe he is a game time decision, what have you, then I think you're going to see something even bigger where it's like, hey, you're going to have to make an adjustment. You're going to have to prepare for somebody maybe not playing an entire football game. And I don't know if there's a better coordinator, or in this case, position coach, than who they have running the offensive line and Jeff Stoutland to have somebody prepared. But look, we go back to the fact that Cam Jurgens may not play on Sunday. I'm with you. I think he does. But again, you're talking about a guy who's banged up and is playing through something in a position that is physically demanding every single snap. Would it shock you if he played 60% of the snaps?
Right. Of course not.
No. It wouldn't shock me.
No. Yeah, I mean, let's hope it's more than that.
Yeah, I hope it's more than that.
Right.
Of course. I'm with you.
Let me gauge your concern level on a couple other guys. First, the number one guy, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
The knee injury. I mean, look, he was full participant in practice.
He looked okay too.
Yeah, and he looks like himself. I don't know. How do you see that knee affecting him in this game?
I think, honestly, the knee for Jalen is probably the most concerning outside of just his throwing arm, I guess, and that's hand and shoulder, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have a guy who, it's not that he can burn you, and we saw that on the touchdown run. I mean, that's just something that he can do. The tush push would have you. I don't know how that's impacted, but they can absolutely. I mean, they really shouldn't even be running that anymore when you've got the offensive line in Barkley at this point, but that's a different conversation. I think to answer your question, though, it's absolutely concerning in the sense of this is not just pivoting. This is not just planting. This is not just trying to make a move with the football. It's your overall mobility. And it's not that Jalen Hurts gets reduced to nothing as a statue. It's just the threat of run versus are you going to test that knee? And look, I'm not equating the two by any means, but we saw this as far as just the first couple games back 2 times over from someone like Carson Wentz, right? If it was the ultimate injury that ended his season or coming back from the back injury, right? Where it's just like there's this first game or two where it's kind of like how much give are you going to get with that versus how much trust do you have in it? And I think Jalen Hurts, the positive of this, guys, is that Jalen Hurts, if he's playing at 70%, may look like that from a mobility standpoint, but he's not going to start doing crazy stuff all of a sudden. Right. If he can't get out of the pocket, he's not just going to sit there and jump up real quick to try to throw a 60-yard pass to A.J. Brown in triple coverage. He's just going to take the sack. And I think that's where you're going to have to live. Ultimately, that's where you're going to have to live with the negative that surrounds the injury. But other than that, if it's like, he's banged up, he's at 80, 85%, he's still going to move around and he's still going to have that threat. He may not be Jayden Daniels out there, but 80% Jalen Hurts is going to be a guy who can still kill you with his feet.
Yeah, very true.
True.
Need some quick outlets, too. Put some guys in the flats, have some short hooks.
Yeah, enough.
Well, that's the thing. Now, right, guys? Like you've got a week to prepare for this. So that's exactly right. From a strategy standpoint, it's inexcusable. Look, it was inexcusable last game. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but it's inexcusable last week, right, for Hurts to drop back routinely after the injury. Now you've got a week. So if these bozos can't figure that out, I don't know what we're talking about.
Well, Kellen Moore didn't have 9 hours interviewing on Zoom
I'll
this
get
week.
to Kellen Moore in a second. My next guy that I want to gauge your concern is Jake Elliott. I know he hasn't missed any postseason field goals, but he misses the extra points, and it almost mattered. It almost mattered in this last game here. Where's your concern level with Jake Elliott?
Let me throw something back, and I'm not going to answer the question with a question, but I guess from a lead the witness type. If we knew, here's what I would say. I wouldn't even use the term if. If I'm looking, let's see, now I'm saying if. Now I'm trying to go around without saying that word if. It's not as easy as I thought it would be.
Right.
But coming into this game, knowing that Nick Sirianni would either tush push or Saquon his way to 2-point conversions to make up for a missed extra point and getting 0 missed field goals, meaning he's 2 for 2 or 3 for 3. I'm willing to live with that.
I hear you. Yeah.
This is not, I don't know what the hell's going on, man. It's Chuck Knobloch. Like, the closer you get, the harder it is for him to do this, right? I said this on 29 the other day. I was like, just take a couple of penalties on these extra points. Move him back, right, 5-10 yards. Make it a legit field goal. He'll knock it down. But in reality, look, here's the other part, though, right? Even if I came back to you and said, oh, my God, I'm pulling the last remaining hair follicles out of my head. I don't know what to do, guys. I'm so concerned about Jake Elliott. Like, he's going to kill us. He's going to kill us. What are we going to do? There's nobody out there. No. You don't just pull a kicker out of the street right now unless your guy gets hurt, right? Like, you can't just do this unless it's out of ultimate necessity. And I just don't think we're anywhere near that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what's the alternative anyway?
There is no
What,
alternative.
you going to sign
there
Morton Anderson?
unless the guy's like, in a stretcher. And then it's okay, maybe you do need a backup kicker. I don't know, but he's not.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, I know that the Commanders are coming in hot. I understand that, and the line's 6. That tells me that Vegas thinks this could even be a 10-point Birds victory anyway, is what that line tells me, Eytan. What do you think about that? You think the line is right where it should be, or you think it's a little low even?
Well, I think what happened here is, this line was at 4.5. It was immediately bet up because people believed, of course, that Jalen Hurts was going to play. It was at 6.5.
Yeah.
And then for a blink of an eye, it was at 7. And
Right.
then all the sharps just jumped right on that because 7 is 7. And you don't need to spend 4 hours breaking down how a game is going to go. It could be a myriad of reasons of just, like you said, a quarterback could get hurt on the 3rd play. And you're sitting there like, are you bleeping kidding me?
I know.
I put all of this on a, minus 500 money line. And I'm like, whatever it may be. So getting to 7 wouldn't shock me, right? Like I'm never shocked anymore if a game ends on 3 or 7 from a betting standpoint. But from where you're talking about overall, and the fact that it dipped, I think the only reason why it dipped down to 6.5 or 6, depending on where you look, is because it was at 7, and because it makes sense for a sharp to create a middle from 4.5 to 7. You've got a key number of 6, you cover 6.5 there, so that's just a little detailed of an answer. But from a betting standpoint, it would make sense if you slammed, let's say, Philadelphia at minus 4.5 to turn around and take that middle at 7, or create a middle, I should say, at 7. But from where I am as far as covering the spread, even at 6 or 6.5, I don't know how you don't look at Philly and look at the advantages that they have and look at the run funnel that Washington's defense is.
Right.
And the overall advantage that they have at home against this team where, as you mentioned earlier in the year, like that's the one to look at. Yeah, I think this game, and I told you guys earlier at the start of the hit here, I have never been more confident that they cover the spread and that they win rather emphatically. I'm looking at, and this is crazy, but I'm looking at one of these NFC just yawn fest. I'm looking at 40-11, something like that.
Wow.
Or maybe they sneak in an extra 2-point conversion of Washington. Yeah, honestly, guys, I just think that you're going to see, like,
the better team is going to show that they're the better team.
Here's the thing. I'll qualify like this. I either think Washington stuns the world because Cliff Kingsbury has some familiarity with the NFC East, and their head coach, this maniac, has coached against the Eagles multiple times over, right, from 2 different teams. And you've got a rookie quarterback who's just on this magical run, and probably gets shut down by most likely Buffalo, what have you, and Washington, and people will draw all this conspiracy about the president and what happened, whatever the hell, drones, whatever it may be, right? People love stuff, but I think outside of Washington winning outright, I don't think they stay in this football game. Like, I don't think there's a backdoor cover. I don't think that Washington's up and the Eagles get their stuff together in the second half. Outside of a massive injury, mainly Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley, and even to be fair, they could lose Saquon, and I still think they have enough talent to win this game.
Yeah.
But guys, I just don't see it. I don't see Washington sticking around in this one.
Yeah, I like it. I kind of agree.
like it.
I kind of agree, man. I mean, I'm laying the 6 with no qualms. No qualms.
Right here.
I'm with you.
Absolutely.
All that being said, going back to Kellen Moore, how do you grade him on the job he's done? I mean, I know people are very critical of him, and a lot of people would love to see him go and get a head coaching job. Doesn't look like that's in the cards right now for him.
No.
But how would you grade him?
Overall or last week?
Overall, I mean, being hyper focused on the last week and what we saw in his route trees and how everything's vertical. I know that pisses a lot of people off, but overall, what he's done and what he is as an OC. I mean, how would you grade him?
I never really thought about it from a letter standpoint. I mean, look, the offense and what they've been able to do as far as a product and as far as numbers, you would give the captain, you would give the person that's running it, the coach in this case, right? Like the head coach of the offense, you would give that person an A based on the results as far as like, well, they've got this amazing running back and they were put up this ridiculous amount of rushing yards, and look at their offensive line. They've been intact all year and all of these things that you can pin, A.J. Brown when he's hot and Devontae when he's healthy. I think, yes, but like everything with this Eagles team, there is nuance, right? Like Nick Sirianni is not just a record. Jalen Hurts is not just a record, right? Like Saquon Barkley is not just rushing yards. The offense is not just Saquon Barkley. Even the offensive line is not just the guys on the field. There's Jeff Stoutland, right? There's components of it. So I feel a little underwhelmed this year. And I'll tell you the biggest reason why I feel underwhelmed, and maybe maybe Moore gets a B minus, something like that. I don't want to get too harsh.
Yeah.
Right. But I'll tell you where I feel the most underwhelmed, pardon me, is in the passing game, specific to lack of creativity.
Yes.
And what I mean by that, right, is that, dude, you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Most people who are competent quarterbacks can put up good numbers. Maybe not Jalen Hurts, throwing, and he's made some really sharp throws on the down the side. But the point is, that's why Tanner McKee can step in and look good. That's why Kenny Pickett can step, because those two guys can beat nearly anybody, if not anybody covering them. So when you know that you have this offensive line and you know you have Saquon Barkley who can dominate any defense and shred, where is the creativity when you have a team pinned and when you have them just because all it is just, okay, Devontae one-on-one, maybe some movement, and I don't want to reduce him to nothing because there is a little more creativity than we saw the year before. Right. That's an obvious one. But it just, I need to see Kansas City level stuff, guys. I need to see you using this talent all over the field. Run some crazy stuff that we really haven't seen before instead of it just all right, man, let's throw the ball down the field and these guys are going to make a grab. It works more often than not because of the talent. But I guess that's where I would say, okay, I was a little underwhelmed.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It makes perfect sense. Give us some different type of split back looks. Give me the I formation with someone in a bunch to the left. Do something special.
Ways to get the ball in Devontae Smith's hand.
It shouldn't be that hard.
Right.
So now flip it over. You mentioned the Chiefs. We're gonna flip to the AFC. One of the teams that the Birds could see in New Orleans if they advance. I'm going to say it's simple. Chiefs -2 or Bills +2, and why?
Well, to be fair, I just let you know, I am biased. And it's not just because, I should say it's because of everything from a betting standpoint. So I have the Eagles 17-1. I have the Eagles 14-1. And I have Jalen Hurts +650 to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, right? So I got on those a little earlier, all different chronology as far as tickets, right? So, yeah, absolutely. So I need the Eagles to win, and I just want to preface that. I need the Eagles to win no matter who they face. But at the start of the playoffs, I was looking through this, and I'm thinking, all right, the one game I'm going to have to worry about before the championship, which is going to be the final boss and Patrick Mahomes and the referees and everything that comes with it,
right?
would be Baltimore, and who could go and win that football game? Who could beat that team? And I looked at this and I got it and I put it out there on Twitter at Shander Bets, but we got Buffalo, Philly 16-1 exact. So I need the Bills, and that's why I'm looking at this. But here's the thing. Assuming the game ends in time and I don't have the removal to cash out on DraftKings, what I may do is I may just go heavy on the hedge. Not heavy, but I may hedge Kansas City on the money line if it stays under 2. But I think Baltimore wins. And no other reason.
Buffalo.
This is a tight game. Yeah. Look, I think you either think the Chiefs are going to get the continued help, and you're going to think the Chiefs are just going to be cheated their way through this game, which is fair because of all the stuff that goes their way, and it's really hard to ignore that. Or You need to find a team that's popular enough. And when we get down here to this level of team that goes to the Super Bowl, there has to be a compelling story. And there is a narrative. And I'm not saying the NFL's fixed, but I am saying that narratives this deep seem to carry. And you know what? You've got Josh Allen, who is all but not winning the MVP. And this is like the consolation boost into the Super Bowl, which is an amazing story because it keeps the MVP story going, which keeps the obvious optics of what Josh Allen looks like versus what Lamar Jackson looks like and all that BS. So idiots on TV can go back and forth and stir that pot up for 2 weeks about, well, is Josh Allen really the MVP? And then here's another little thing here, right? And I don't mean little to belittle it, but I mean like a small little nugget. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this award. I really have not. But guess who has just shot up to near the top as far as the AP Comeback Player of the Year? It's Damar Hamlin. Is there a better story and award and person to parade out for the Super Bowl? Because Taylor Swift is old news.
She
right?
sure
like
is.
The Chiefs and all that, right? That's old news. And then let me leave you with this last one because I got one more little conspiracy nugget here for you.
I'm all about conspiracies.
Oh, and this is it. Like, if the Bills win, we'll come back and we'll laugh about it. If not, then everybody will be like, well, that's what you get for having that idiot on in the first place. But here's the thing about Kansas City, right? There is no bigger piece of national drama than Dynasty loses now what? Go back to when the Patriots got knocked off and lose, especially in the Super Bowl, right, to the Eagles. We get wrapped up in it because, oh, my goodness, we're drunk for a year because the Eagles won the Super Bowl. But you go back and you read some stuff, and you go back and you find clips on ESPN and Fox Sports. When a team loses in the Super Bowl or that final game, right, when the Warriors, when it's that time, the Yankees, oh, my God, you know what? They really didn't win.
What now?
Right.
Yeah.
That offseason is full of, is this it? What do you do here? What happens here? Now, they don't have as many big pieces, right? Like there's no loudmouth receiver or what have you, but you'll see what happens. Is there something wrong with Mahomes? Is Mahomes no longer? People will go back to the year that he had, which was not as dominant as we've seen prior, and ask if he's falling off. And you know what? Just like locally, people can get miles and miles out of nonsensical content here, the same goes on there. So the NFL has this huge content machine with the Chiefs that continues through both the Super Bowl, which they're not even in, and the offseason. So there you go.
Yeah,
it's a lot of conspiracy sandwich right there.
No, you know what, though? I think it's logical, and I think that the Bills win outright anyway. I mean, regardless of everything you just said, which is some valid points in there, I think the Bills are just a better football team this year. They showed that. They beat them head-to-head, and I think that they're going to go into Arrowhead and get the victory. And then it's going to set up an even bigger storyline spanning 3 decades, Eytan, where the Eagles could complete the NFC East division sweep in the Super Bowl over the Buffalo Bills. And that's full circle for you right there.
I love
full
that.
circle. They lost to the Commodores when they were the Redskins.
Yep.
They lost
That's
to the
right.
Cowboys twice, and they lost to the Giants by 1 point.
Yes.
On the kick, where the
Yes.
the kicker was getting the death threats and everything.
That's right.
The Birds
That's
will
right.
complete that. I think Birds, Bills, the LaShawn McCoy Bowl. And it's gonna be pretty interesting. Eytan, we appreciate you coming on again, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Always insightful and exciting. And hopefully, next time we connect and chop it up about the Birds, we're talking about a Super Bowl appearance and then a Super Bowl victory.
I can't wait. Looking forward to it, guys. And as always, thank you, and I'll see you all on TV.
It's time for Prem's Picks.
These games are a blowout, a human lock. You can bet your children's unborn children on these games.
It's the Vet Alumni Playoff Picks. We just heard Eytan's
We sure
picks,
did.
so-
We sure did. He's got Bills Birds. I got Bills Birds. I'll stay right out front. We know that we're each picking the Birds to win. I think the Bills beat the Chiefs. We're both 8-2. These are the key final 3 games to determine who between us is the better playoff prognosticator.
Well, before I give my Bills-Chiefs pick, let's take a step back and see how we did last week.
Absolutely. I had the Commanders in the upset.
You did.
I saw it coming. Saw it coming.
Right. I did not. I picked
Lions are
Detroit.
Swiss cheese on defense. That's why.
Yeah, I definitely had the Chiefs over the Texans. You picked the Texans.
I had the Texans,
That's where you
did you know that's the first game in NFL history in a playoff game where a team outgained the other team by 100 yards,
yes,
had no turnovers, and still lost.
This, yes.
The previous 49 teams were 49-0.
There was some really terrible calls.
The Kansas City Chiefs are alive and well.
As
Eytan was kind of alluding to as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, we saw Mahomes flop. This is what really grinded my gears.
I can't stand that.
This grinded my gears worse than anything.
Horrible,
Mahomes flopped, didn't get the call, and the whole stadium boos.
They're
wild. So entitled to getting these calls.
I know. I don't know if I sent you a picture. I don't know if you saw it. It was a picture of Mahomes, but the helmet was the size of his whole body.
Yes, I did.
That's basically what it is. It's so egregious that even the broadcasters now are talking about it.
Aikman was livid when he tried to flop. He said, they really got to do something about this in the offseason.
You can't do that. It should be a penalty on the offensive player for doing that.
It should.
Because that's unsportsmanlike conduct.
It is.
If you want to talk about unsportsmanlike conduct,
that is it.
Acting like you're going to the ground when you were not really hit like you're acting like you were.
It was egregious.
Same in basketball. They do it in basketball, but it's easier to do it in basketball. It's more common. But in football,
they kind of outlawed that go for the 3-pointer.
And then lean into
it. They outlawed that for the most part.
You know what else was horrible in that Chiefs-Texans game? He slides last second, almost like he drops. He does a hip drop slide. And the Texans players collide into each other.
Like the Three Stooges.
And they throw a
get
flag.
The flag on them.
I was watching the game.
I was bewildered by it.
Jaw to the floor, man, because calls like that in a tight game was tight. For most of that game was very, very close.
Those calls were the difference.
The Texans were one big play from winning that game.
Because after you gave Mahomes that call, he was able to just get it to Kelsey.
Yeah, that's frustrating. If I'm a Texans fan, I'm angry still.
Yes, of course.
I can imagine what their radio.
Ryans. He was livid about it.
Yeah, that's not right.
He should have been.
No, especially as a defensive player.
We flip-flopped on those games. And, so the rest of the way we were spot on.
We each picked the Eagles.
We're 8-2 each.
And we each picked the Bills.
Yeah, and we're 8-2 each.
8-2 each, with interesting losses on both ends, interesting wins and losses. We traded some, but we picked mostly consistent. I think we picked maybe 4 of the 10 games differently.
Yeah,
I think something like
exactly. But the majority of them we've kind of been spot on, and that's what it is. I mean,
Bills and Birds in the Super Bowl.
Okay, so here is my thing, right? So I admit, I agree 1,000%. I want to see the Bills and Birds. I always thought that would be a more compelling matchup. I think the Bills are the better team. I just think the NFL State Farm agenda is going to keep the better team from winning the game.
State Farm Andy, State Farm Pat. We know what happened at State Farm Stadium 2 years ago.
As much as I think...
And every time I watch that replay, that Bradbury play, man, it's so frustrating.
My head says, well, the Bills are the better team. The Bills are going to win this game. And my gut says, the Chiefs, that agenda. And you can just not count Mahomes out no matter who he's going against. And so... For that reason and that reason alone, I lean Chiefs, and I do, as much as I would think the more compelling matchup is Birds-Bills, I think it's going to be Birds-Chiefs too, and that's really what I want. I think we are more...
We're more suited to beat the Chiefs.
Yes, more so than we were before. Before, we had a bend-don't-break defense. It was sort of mid. We weren't that great. We couldn't stop the run. And it wasn't just that game. We had trouble stopping the run all year that year.
Yeah.
And so we got there, and that Mahomes magic combined with, just unable to stop that run. I feel like we're more set up now. We didn't have a Zach Bond then. We didn't have a Quinyon Mitchell or a Cooper DeJean or
Slay
Jalen Carter.
is playing the best football of his career right now.
Right. We didn't have Jalen Carter either, who, by the way, is every bit as good as Chris Jones on the other side.
Absolutely, man.
So we didn't have any of that.
Yeah,
we didn't have Nolan Smith.
You're
we
right.
didn't have these guys, these dogs. And I feel like we're a completely different team, and we're more suited to beat them now. And the most important element of all this, I feel like our O-line, dare I say this, I think our O-line's actually better, and I think adding Saquon to that kind of a game, they don't have a Saquon, we have Saquon, we didn't have
absolutely
that.
Right. Pacheco's actually been banged up this year.
Yeah, and he always, the thing that he's annoying, because, like, he'll suck all game, and then they need this big run.
I know.
After like one of those big penalties, and he'll rip like a 20-yarder.
And his Worthy kid's pretty good. His Xavier Worthy kid's pretty good.
I mean, I think he's
Andy Reid.
He's phenomenal.
He's an Andy Reid Padawan. He's like the typical Andy Reid draft pick.
Yeah.
From a skill position standpoint.
And everybody said it was like the most predictable pick. Everybody said, the Chiefs are definitely taking Xavier Worthy because he's like a Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
And of course, that's who they take.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's annoying. The Chiefs
I think
are
the
annoying.
Birds actually are more set up to beat the Chiefs than they are the Bills, because Josh Allen is probably the best remaining quarterback of the group.
He is. He is prone to turn the ball over.
He doesn't take any sacks, though.
No, he doesn't, but he's prone to turn the ball over against better defenses, and we have the best.
Yeah, I could see a big pick six against Josh Allen.
I want to see the Bills. Yes, I think that's the better matchup, but I think the ratings monster, and I think the big drama would be a revenge game between the Eagles and the Chiefs, where the Eagles are more suited to beat them. So I'm torn on this, but I am going to go with Kansas City because I just feel like the agenda is too strong. And look, it's not too strong that, they're just definitely going to make sure they win the Super Bowl. No, once you get there, it's about who's the better team.
Absolutely.
The agenda is to get the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl every year.
Right.
No matter what happens once they're there.
If the Birds somehow blow this game, or if someone gets hurt and they lose the game, I don't know if I'm even going to watch.
I'm not.
Bills Chiefs.
I will be done with football.
I will be done too.
Yeah, I'll be done with it.
If they lose this game, I'm doing something else. I'm making beats.
Yeah,
I'm putting the headphones right on and making some angry hip hop.
Yeah, I listen, I agree with you.
But that's not going to happen.
I hear you.
It's not going to happen.
I will be done with football for the year.
Actually, you know what? It's the pick segment. I'm adjusting my score, Tek.
My dad texted me that. My dad texted me on that final drive of the Rams game. He said after he predicted the crucial turnover, which happened, he said, if they lose here, I'm done with football for the year.
I was lightheaded, Tek. I felt fainty.
Right.
Like before that Jalen Carter third down sack, I felt like I was going to faint.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But I'm adjusting my score from 30-24 to 30-20.
Oh, wow.
Because of this defense.
Okay.
And they're going to force a big turnover. Hey, look, they held Jayden Daniels to 18 points with the same guys in the field and his right guard, who he's going to be down.
Right.
On our field, 18 points. So I think that they get 20. They get 2 more because it's a playoff game. And Birds take the 10-point win to New Orleans for another shot at the chip.
There it is. You got Birds Bills. I got Birds Chiefs.
Wow.
We will see what happens. It will be a tremendous weekend, hopefully. And not a depressing one.
Saquon, $150, 2 TDs.
There you go. All right. Go Birds. This is a absolute must-have game.
Please don't lose.
Please don't lose. Go Birds. We will see you next week.
Vet Alumni.